And look, one of the reasons Iowa is so important, you're first in the nation for the Republican primaries. Candidates spend more time in Iowa than any state in the country. What are they talking about when they're out meeting with voters now? Because they are all having events. We've got a huge field of Republican candidates. And what do you think is resonating with people when they're out pressing the flesh?
In Iowa, we love caucus season because we get to meet all the presidential candidates in person, and I have met most of them. It seems like what they talk about first is themselves, so that they can give some background in what they do, where they come from, what their ideology is, how humble they are, how smart they are, and for a few of them, their service in the military. So I think a lot of them right now are just, here, let me tell you about myself. The second thing that they will tell you is that they are 100% opposed to everything that Joe Biden is doing, because everything he's doing is really terrible. Everything from the border to foreign policy to economic policy to military policy. There's a lot to talk about there. They could go on, and frankly, we mostly agree with them.
And one of the interesting things is when you mention the border, for people outside of America, they would say, you're nowhere near the border. Why would it matter? But this is a real issue for you, a kitchen table issue, because you think it's driving a lot of social issues in the state.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, we may be 3 states away from the border, but the drugs are making it all the way to Iowa. The number of fentanyl deaths among young people has increased dramatically. It's really sad when you hear about, a 17, 18-year-old person overdosing on fentanyl. Another problem that we have here in Iowa is that sometimes they're releasing criminals from the border and they're making it to Iowa and they're harming folks here, and that's not okay. Back to being a business owner, I need people. There's 1 million people at the border who would like to work. We need someone to come up with a comprehensive immigration policy so that we can get those people legally from Mexico and Guatemala and Honduras into the Midwest, where we need workers.
Absolutely, that's a good point. And I do want to ask you as well, I know whenever I travel, I look up the local political groups run by women, because they tend to do most of the work and get the least credit and talk the least in public forums, and you always know a lot. And one of the interesting things about 2024 is Democrats especially are going to be pushing abortion as a divisive issue for Republicans, and that they blame it for Republicans losing out in the midterms when they should have done better. What discussions are you having on the ground with other Republican women about abortion as an issue for 2024?
Abortion is a very polarizing issue. Everyone has a strong opinion on it one way or the other. There's no in between. It's kind of like gun control. You're either completely for it or completely against it. What I'm seeing in Iowa is, in my particular group, the Iowa Federation of Republican Women, the Roe versus Wade, overturning that didn't have a lot of effect on abortions in Iowa. Unfortunately, our state Supreme Court would not back our governor and limit late-term abortions. So they're still legal in Iowa, even though we don't want them to be. So what we do as Republican women is we support the pregnancy support centers. We have baby showers, diaper drives, we provide financial assistance, so that if a woman really does want to have a baby, but she's scared that she doesn't have enough money, we step in and we help.
It's interesting you say that, because it is nuanced and it changes at states levels, and I think that kind of gets lost, especially when you're from the outside of America looking in, and that's why it's not going to be such a clear-cut issue in 2024. But it's always interesting to get the perspective of those who are on the ground doing the work. So I really appreciate your time, Barbara, and hope to talk to you again soon.